Gamechanger Audio has made a name for themselves by building, well, game-changing devices. They built a sustain pedal for guitars, and I don't mean a sustain stomp box, I mean a piano-style sustain pedal that just lets you play guitar notes forever. They also built a distortion pedal that uses plasma, not regular silicon and germanium circuits, but actual boiling hot gas. It's crazy, crazy stuff. And the motor synth is even crazier, if that's at all believable. Instead of your standard analog or digital oscillators, the motor synth uses motors to create its sound. These are the kind of high-precision motors used in drones. They can start immediately and stop on a dime, and that makes them basically tunable to audio frequencies.
So when I did this, it instantly doubles its speed.
So the motor synth doesn't actually use the sound of the motors themselves to create the music, although you can get up pretty close and actually hear the motors whirring if you want to, and it's pretty damn cool. Instead, what it's actually doing is harnessing the electromechanical energy of the motors to create synthesizer-style sounds. Every
time I hit a key and the sound changes, it all depends on the motor's rotation speed. So, right?
And in addition, for other sound sources, there is black paint on the tops of the motors that it bounces infrared light off of. And as the motors spin faster, that creates a higher frequency wave.
For example, this disc starts spinning, and then when it hits the black region on the disc, it absorbs the light. And then when the black region passes over, the reflective part bounces it back. And that's how you get a signal that's known in the synth world, the synthesis world, as square wave. So on, off, on, off, on, off.
Square waves, saw waves, sine waves, all of these things are possible with the motor synth and without the aid of a standard digital or analog oscillator. It's honestly just one of the craziest things I've ever seen. It's absolutely bonkers.
So you can see the sound wave here. And now I can manipulate that wave. For example, I can do this.
Now, of course, none of that fancy and admittedly quite unique technology would be worth a damn if it didn't also sound good, and happy to report the motor synth sounds pretty great. Now, we only were able to get a very short demo on the floor of the expo, and hopefully we'll have a much more in-depth hands-on at some point, but I gotta say, in my time with it, it produces amazingly thick basses, crazy distorted sounds, and if you know how to push it, you can even get some pad noises. Now, obviously, it can't all be crazy. There are some pretty standard synth controls here as well. You have your typical ADSR envelope, there's modulation controls and LFO, all sorts of fun stuff. It can be in unison or poly mode. There's an arpeggiator, a sequencer, but important to note that the firmware is still very early in its beta stage. The motor synth is not expected to hit the market until December, so you need to keep all of that in mind. Now, you can control the motor synth using a MIDI keyboard, but Gamechanger actually thinks you're better off using the 8 buttons on the front. It's a non-standard way of controlling a synthesizer, but let's be clear, this is a pretty non-standard instrument. Now, these buttons can be set to perform whatever scale you can imagine, be it major pentatonic or Dorian. I didn't get to dig through the entire thing, but if this short demonstration has convinced you that you need to have one, you can go to Indiegogo right now and back it. It is not cheap at $899, but honestly, that's not exactly breaking the bank when it comes to crazy-ass boutique synth world. For more of the latest tech news and occasional synth news, make sure to hit that subscribe button or follow along on Engadget.com.